My goal here today is not to give you any real in-depth knowledge about screening for fundamental reasons to buy a stock, nor is it to go into really any great depth on technical reasons. You got the basis from Phil and Ralph this morning. What I want to do is show you a methodology, one that I use and I think is an effective way of looking at both worlds, both from a macro perspective, a top-down market perspective, and a bottom-up market perspective. So keep that in mind as we go through. So where do you start? I'm not of the view, obviously, that you can do one without the other. I think you can, but having both approaches or a quantitative approach, anything at the end of the day to beat the market is the goal. And that's really where I focus on. So the goal, this is what I do. I've taken, because the indices that we benchmark against are weighted on a capitalization basis, what I do, and this is for the S&P 500, is break down by the GICS formats, the sectors here. I look at market breadth on a given day. So this is my AD line. I look at, and this is a snapshot from last week, we had 8% of the shares on the S&P 500 by weight were advancing relative to declining. And then we can break it down by sector. So we get individual AD lines within sectors. So it helps us with a micro approach. Number of stocks making new 52-week highs relative to lows. We can see healthcare was a standout leader. Accumulation distribution in the past week. What percentage of market cap rallied, making new highs, or not new highs, but rallied on higher volume, pardon me, versus distribution. What percentage of market cap was declining on higher volume. And we can pick up patterns here, and we can track these things and plot them over time. You can see here utilities in the past week and a half, 2 weeks, very strong distribution characteristics relative to some of the other groups. Same thing in telecom. We can then measure them, and the reason they're color-coded here is because I know the historic norms. I've gone back in my database to 1988, and I've programmed all these things in, so I know when they become statistically significant. So it changes colors in my report based on the statistical significance. So very low distribution shows up in red here. Same thing here. And it turns to green when it gets statistically significant based on my parameters. So let's look at a couple indicators to help us with our bottom-up stock selection. Rate of change. Here we're looking at, this is a chart of Intel. So we're looking at rate of change, multiple time frames. Are we oversold, overbought? Where are we now relative to historical extremes on a short, intermediate term basis? So that's one way to help us with market bottoms. Being a bit more growth-oriented in the technology sector, market bottoming patterns are a bit less reliable.
最強の銘柄選択法、ファンダメンタルズとテクニカル分析の融合。ファンダメンタルズ要因だけでは、個別銘柄の取引で勝つことはできない。テクニカル分析だけでは、相場の全体像を見越すことができない。単体では不完全な銘柄の選択法を補完的に使うことで、選択するべき銘柄群が見えてくる。講師の証券ストラテジストラリー・バーマンは、株式トレーディングでは実際の売り、買いを執行する前に戦略の 75% が決定されていると言い切っている。個別株の相場展開で、その銘柄独特、固有の材料が影響する割合はたったの 25% と言われている。本セミナーで紹介されている50、25、25の法則によると、個別銘柄の株価動向の 50% は相場全体に連動し、25% はその銘柄が属する業種の指数に連動するとしている。どんなに苦労して手に入れた個別情報でも、戦略の 25% までの有効性しかないのなら、残りの 75% をものにするにはどうするべきなのだろうか。ファンダメンタルズをテクニカル分析で補完した最強の銘柄選択術がここで公開されている。